The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy as hundreds of representatives from the most advanced species in the known universe gathered for an emergency session. The massive holographic display in the center of the room showed a swirling purple and black mass that seemed to eat away at the very fabric of space itself. "This quantum anomaly has already consumed 3 uninhabited star systems," announced Head Counselor Smith, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. "And it's growing faster than we predicted." The gathered representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Valerians, known for their warrior culture and advanced combat technologies, remained unusually quiet. The Bright Ones, beings of pure energy who had mastered the art of stellar engineering, dimmed their usual brilliant glow. Even the mechanoids, with their perfect logic and quantum computers, seemed to have no solutions to offer. "Our best scientists estimate we have less than 30 days before it reaches the populated systems of the Crimson Arm," continued Smith, pointing to a red spiral arm of the galaxy on the display. "We need immediate action." Commander Rex of the Valerian fleet stood up, his armor gleaming under the chamber's lights. "We sent our most advanced scout ships to study the anomaly. None returned. Whatever this thing is, it defies all known physics. The Bright Ones attempted to contain it with our solar barriers," added their representative, their voice a melodic hum. "But the anomaly simply absorbed our energy fields." The chamber erupted in worried discussions. Dozens of species, each more advanced than the last, shared their failed attempts to even approach the phenomenon. The mechanoids had lost 17 ships trying to collect data. The Crystal Collective's attempt to create a dimensional barrier had shattered their most powerful crystals. In the midst of the growing panic, a small voice spoke up from the back of the chamber. "Have we considered asking the humans?" The chamber fell silent before breaking into nervous laughter. Everyone turned to look at Representative Jones from Earth, sitting quietly in his simple blue uniform. "The humans," Commander Rex scoffed. "The same humans who take 20 safety checks before launching a simple space pod. The ones who still use physical backup systems because they don't trust pure quantum computing." "Exactly those humans," Jones replied calmly. "The ones who haven't lost a deep space mission in over 50 years because of those very protocols you mock." Head Counselor Smith stroked his chin thoughtfully. "The humans are known for their excessive caution. They're the only species that still uses ancient radiation shielding along with modern deflectors." "They're cowards," shouted someone from the crowd. "They refused to join the last space race because they said the risks weren't properly assessed." Jones stood up, his voice firm but not angry. "And none of the ships in that race survived the unexpected solar flare. Our cowardly warnings about insufficient shielding proved correct." The chamber grew quiet again. Head Counselor Smith studied the holographic display of the growing anomaly. Their best warriors had failed. Their most advanced technologies had proven useless. Their brightest minds were stumped. "Perhaps," Smith said slowly, "in this situation, we need a different approach. Representative Jones, would Earth be willing to send a team to study the anomaly?" Jones pulled out an old-fashioned tablet, the kind with physical backup systems that made other species roll their eyes. "Actually, when I first heard about the anomaly, I submitted it to our Deep Space Hazard Assessment Team. They've already completed initial remote observations and developed 3 potential study approaches, each with full safety protocols and backup procedures." The chamber buzzed again, this time with a mixture of disbelief and hope. The mighty Valerians exchanged embarrassed looks. The Bright Ones glowed a bit brighter. The mechanoids began calculating the statistical advantages of the human approach to space exploration. "Very well," Head Counselor Smith declared. "Earth will take the lead on this crisis. Representative Jones, how soon can your team be ready?" Jones allowed himself a small smile. "They already are. Captain Miller and the crew of the research vessel Prudence are on standby at the edge of safe space. They're just waiting for Council approval to begin their careful approach to the study area." As the Council chamber erupted in surprised murmurs, Jones sat back down. Sometimes, he thought, being called a coward wasn't such a bad thing. Sometimes, it meant you lived long enough to solve the problems others rushed to their doom trying to fix. The research vessel Prudence hung in space at what Captain Miller had determined to be a safe distance from the quantum anomaly. The ship was unremarkable by modern galactic standards, a boxy design with multiple layers of shielding and backup systems that other species considered outdated. "Status report," Miller called out, his eyes fixed on the swirling purple-black mass visible on the main screen. "Triple-checking all sensor calibrations, Captain," replied Tom from his station. His fingers moved carefully across 3 separate control panels, 1 quantum, 1 digital, and 1 analog. Other species found this redundancy laughable, but humans had learned the hard way that backup systems saved lives. The ship's observation deck was crowded with representatives from various alien species who had insisted on watching the humans work. Commander Rex of the Valerians stood with his arms crossed, his expression showing clear impatience. "This is ridiculous," Rex muttered as he watched Lisa, the ship's safety officer, run her 4th diagnostic check. "The anomaly could have devoured another system in the time you've spent checking your equipment." Miller turned to face the alien commander. "With all due respect, rushing in has already cost the lives of your best crews. We do things differently." As if to prove his point, the ship's AI announced, "Warning, radiation patterns shifting. Adjusting shields according to Safety Protocol 47B. Hold position," Miller ordered. "Let's deploy the long-range probes first." A series of small, heavily shielded probes launched from the Prudence. Each one carried 3 different types of sensors, another human redundancy that made their alien observers shake their heads. "Probes maintaining stable trajectories," reported Anna from the navigation station. She was monitoring both the main system and an old-style radar screen that other species had abandoned centuries ago. The alien observers watched in a mixture of boredom and fascination as the human crew methodically gathered data. Hours passed. The Bright One's representative had dimmed considerably, clearly unimpressed with the slow pace. Then Tom's voice cut through the quiet hum of the ship. "Captain, getting some unusual readings from Probe 3's analog sensors. Cross-reference with the other probes," Miller ordered calmly. "The quantum sensors aren't picking it up at all," Tom replied, his fingers flying across his panels. "But all the analog systems are showing the same pattern. It's like the anomaly is giving off an old-style radio signal." The alien observers crowded around Tom's station, staring in disbelief at the simple wave pattern displayed on the ancient-looking screen. "Impossible," whispered the mechanoid representative. "Our quantum sensors are millions of times more sensitive than these primitive devices. Sometimes the old ways see things the new ways miss," Miller said quietly. He turned to Lisa. "Run a full safety analysis for a closer approach. I want every possible risk calculated and accounted for." "This is absurd," Commander Rex exploded. "You found something, and you're still going to waste time with safety protocols." "Especially now," Miller replied firmly. "Because we found something nobody else detected, and that means we're dealing with unknown variables. Tom, start running pattern analysis on that signal. Anna, plot us 3 potential approach vectors, each with at least 2 escape routes. Engineering, I want triple power to all shields, including the primitive ones." The alien observers watched in reluctant admiration as the human crew worked. Each step was careful, measured, and backed up by multiple systems. When Lisa's safety analysis was done, she ran it again. When Tom found a pattern in the signal, he verified it through 3 different systems. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity to their alien guests, Miller gave the order to move closer to the anomaly. The Prudence crept forward at what seemed like an impossibly slow pace, but with each movement, they gathered more data. "Captain," Tom called out, his voice excited but controlled. "The signal, it's not random. It's repeating. And," he paused, running the analysis one more time to be sure, "it's artificial. The observation deck went completely silent. The humans had discovered what all the advanced species had missed. Their careful, methodical approach had revealed something extraordinary. The anomaly wasn't a natural phenomenon at all. It was made by someone, or something. Miller nodded, his expression serious. "Well, ladies and gentlemen," he said to both his crew and the stunned alien observers, "it seems our excessive caution has paid off. Now let's do this by the book and figure out exactly what we're dealing with." The alien representatives watched in silence as the human crew began their careful documentation and analysis. Perhaps they were starting to realize there was more to human caution than mere cowardice. The mood aboard the Prudence had changed. Even the alien observers had stopped making snide comments about human caution as they watched the crew work. The discovery that the anomaly was artificial had changed everything. Tom hadn't left his station for 6 hours, analyzing the signal pattern through every sensor system available. "Captain," he called out, wiping tired eyes, "I think I found something interesting in the old radio bands." Miller walked over, followed by the ever-present group of alien observers. "Show me." "Look at this pattern." Tom pointed to a simple wave display. "Every 12 minutes, there's a spike in the signal. At first, I thought it was random, but..." He pressed a few buttons, and a second display lit up. "This is an old Earth pattern. It's a containment field signature." The mechanoid representative stepped forward, its metallic face showing as much surprise as it could. "Containment field. That technology is primitive. We abandoned it centuries ago when we developed quantum barriers." "Exactly," Miller said, a hint of excitement in his voice. "Lisa, pull up the records of all failed attempts to contain this anomaly." Lisa's fingers flew across her console. "Got them, Captain. The Bright Ones tried energy barriers. Failed. The Crystal Collective's dimensional walls. Shattered. The mechanoid's quantum fields. Absorbed. But nobody tried old-style containment technology," Miller finished, "because everyone thought it was too primitive to work." Commander Rex snorted. "Are you suggesting that ancient technology might succeed where our most advanced systems failed?" "I'm suggesting," Miller replied calmly, "that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." "Tom, can you clean up that signal any more?" "Already working on it, Captain. Running it through all 3 processing systems." Tom's dedication to triple-checking everything was no longer drawing eye rolls from the alien observers. Anna spoke up from her station. "Captain, I've been mapping the anomaly's growth pattern. There's something odd about it." She pulled up a holographic display. "See these expansion points? They're not random. They form a perfect geometric pattern. Like they're following the layout of an old containment grid," Miller finished. He turned to the alien observers. "I think we know what we're dealing with. This isn't just an anomaly. It's an ancient containment system that's breaking down." The Bright One's representative glowed brighter with sudden understanding. "Of course. The signal isn't coming from the anomaly. It's coming from the failing containment system. Which means," Miller continued, "that all your advanced attempts to contain it probably made things worse. Your new technology was interfering with the old systems that were already there." Lisa had been quiet, running calculations. "Captain, based on the signal pattern and growth rate, I estimate this containment system is at least 50,000 years old. Far older than any of our civilizations." The aliens muttered among themselves. The idea that ancient technology might hold the key to their current crisis was hard for them to accept. "What do you suggest, Captain?" Commander Rex asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by grudging respect. Miller studied the displays for a long moment. "First, we need to understand exactly how this old containment system works. We'll send in more probes, but this time configured to pick up older energy signatures. Tom, recalibrate everything to look for primitive technology patterns. Anna, map out every expansion point and try to find the system's original boundaries." "And then?" the mechanoid representative asked. "And then," Miller said with a slight smile, We're going to do something that might seem crazy to all of you. We're going to build a new containment field using old technology, something that can work with the existing system instead of fighting against it." The alien observers looked at each other in disbelief. The humans were proposing to solve a crisis that had stumped the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy by using technology that most species considered obsolete. "It will take time," Miller added. "We'll need to test everything thoroughly, run multiple simulations, and have backup plans for our backup plans. We'll do this carefully, methodically, and safely." This time, nobody complained about human caution. They watched in silence as the crew of the Prudence began their meticulous work, documenting every step, checking every calculation 3 times, and slowly unraveling a mystery that had been waiting 50,000 years to be solved. Sometimes, Miller thought, the bravest thing you could do was to take your time and do things right. 2 days had passed aboard the Prudence. The ship's observation deck had been transformed into a makeshift command center, with holographic displays showing mountains of data collected from the ancient containment system. Captain Miller stood at the center of the room, addressing both his crew and the alien observers. "Here's what we know," he said, pointing to a complex diagram. "The original containment system was designed to hold something massive, possibly a tear in space-time itself. As the system failed, the tear began to grow." "But why now?" asked Commander Rex. "Why would a 50,000-year-old system suddenly start failing?" Tom spoke up from his station. "We think we found the answer to that." He pulled up a new display showing energy readings. The system was designed to draw power from nearby stars. But as stars naturally moved away over thousands of years, the power supply weakened, finished the bright one's representative, their glow pulsing with understanding. "Exactly," Miller nodded. "And now we have a plan to fix it. It's risky, but if we do it right, we can stabilize the entire system." He gestured to Anna, who brought up a new simulation. "You can't be serious," Commander Rex said, watching the simulation play out. "That's suicide." The plan was both simple and incredibly dangerous. The Prudence would need to position itself at specific points around the anomaly, using its own power systems to temporarily stabilize the old containment field. Then, they would need to launch a series of specially modified probes that would serve as new power relay stations, effectively rebuilding the ancient power grid. "Each probe will need to be placed with absolute precision," Miller explained. "If we're off by even a fraction, the whole thing could collapse, and the tear could expand exponentially." Lisa stepped forward with her safety analysis. "We've run 100 simulations. Our success rate is only 47%, but it's better than any other option we have." The alien observers stared in shock. The humans, the supposedly cowardly humans, were proposing to put themselves directly in harm's way, in positions where several advanced alien ships had already been lost. "What about the crew?" the mechanoid representative asked. "The radiation levels alone at those positions would be lethal to most species. That's why we're going to use our primitive triple-layered shielding," Miller replied. "And yes, we've calculated the risks. Every crew member has been briefed and given the choice to stay behind." Tom turned in his chair. "We're all staying, Captain. Already triple-checked our wills and emergency protocols." There was nervous laughter from the human crew. The next few hours were a flurry of activity. The crew ran through the plan again and again in simulations. Every step was documented, every possible failure point identified, and backed up with alternative solutions. They even practiced emergency evacuation drills, much to the amazement of their alien observers. "I don't understand," Commander Rex said quietly to Miller as they watched the crew prepare. "Your species is known for being cautious, some would say fearful. Yet here you are, proposing the most dangerous mission I've ever seen." Miller smiled slightly. "Being cautious doesn't mean being afraid to act. It means understanding the risks and preparing for them. We're not fearless. We're ready." The final preparations were completed as the anomaly continued to grow. The specially modified probes were loaded, each one triple-checked by Tom and his team. The ship's power systems were reconfigured to interface with the ancient containment field, with 3 separate backup systems in place. "All stations, report readiness," Miller called out. "Engineering ready, all systems triple-checked," came the first response. "Navigation ready, all approach vectors calculated and recalculated," Anna reported. "Safety protocols all in place, emergency systems standing by," Lisa confirmed. "Probe systems ready, all modifications verified," Tom added. Miller looked around the room at his crew, then at the alien observers who had become an unexpected audience to this human approach to crisis management. "We'll begin in 1 hour. I want everyone to run through their emergency procedures one more time. Not because we're afraid, but because we're going to do this right." The aliens watched in silence as the human crew calmly prepared to risk everything on their carefully planned mission. Perhaps they were beginning to understand. There was a profound difference between cowardice and caution, and an even bigger difference between reckless bravery and calculated courage. The final hour before the mission felt both too long and too short aboard the Prudence. The alien observers had never seen anything quite like it. A crew calmly preparing for what might be a suicide mission, yet taking time to check every single detail. "Radiation shield test number 3, Lisa announced, her voice steady as she worked through her pre-mission checklist. "Primary shield at 100%, secondary shield at 100%, backup shield at 100%. Tom was surrounded by probe components, methodically checking each one for the 4th time. "Probe 1. Power relay confirmed. Probe 2, power relay confirmed. Probe 3. He continued his count, ignoring the mechanoid representative's clear impatience. "Is all this really necessary?" Commander Rex asked Miller, watching Anna run yet another simulation of their approach vectors. "Your crew has already checked everything multiple times." Miller nodded. "Let me show you something." He walked over to a display screen and pulled up an old Earth space mission file. In 1986, a human spacecraft called Challenger exploded shortly after launch. Know why? The alien observers gathered closer, curious. A single O-ring, one small rubber seal that failed because of cold weather. After that, we learned that no check is too small, no precaution too excessive. Miller's voice was firm. "We're about to attempt something that could save billions of lives, or cost us our own. We check everything." Around them, the crew continued their preparations. In engineering, the team was running power flow simulations, measuring every possible variation. The medical bay was stocking extra radiation treatment supplies. Even the ship's cook was carefully preparing emergency ration packs, each one labeled and counted 3 times. 30 minutes to mission start, the ship's AI announced. Anna called out from her station, "Captain, I found a small irregularity in our 3rd approach vector." "Recalculating now." Instead of showing frustration at the delay, Miller nodded approvingly. "Good catch. Everyone, use this time to do one more systems check." The Bright One's representative glowed curiously. "Your species' dedication to preparation is unexpected. We had always interpreted it as fear." "Fear keeps you alive," Lisa said, looking up from her safety console. "Fear makes you check your equipment one more time. Fear reminds you that space is dangerous and unforgiving." Tom finished his probe checks and started running diagnostics on the deployment system. "Besides," he added with a slight smile, "it's not like we're just sitting here being scared. We're doing something about it." The next 20 minutes were filled with focused activity. Every crew member knew their role, had memorized the emergency procedures, and had backup plans for their backup plans. The alien observers watched in growing respect as these supposedly cowardly humans prepared to do what their own bravest warriors had failed to accomplish. 15 minutes to mission start, came the AI's announcement. Miller gathered his crew for a final briefing. "We've run every simulation, checked every system, and prepared for every scenario we can think of. Now let's go over the mission sequence one last time." He pulled up a holographic display showing their planned approach. "First wave. We position ourselves here," Here and here, he pointed to 3 points around the anomaly. We'll be using our primitive shields that somehow none of the advanced ships thought to try. Second wave. Probe deployment. Tom, your timing needs to be perfect. Tom nodded. Already set up 3 different timing systems to sync the launches, Captain. Final wave. Power synchronization. If everything works, we'll have rebuilt the containment field's power grid. If not, Miller paused. Well, that's why we have 18 different evacuation plans. Commander Rex stepped forward. Captain Miller, I believe I owe your species an apology. What we saw as cowardice was actually preparation, Miller finished. Fear shows you the danger. Courage lets you face it. But preparation lets you beat it. 5 minutes to mission start, the AI announced. The crew moved to their stations with calm efficiency. Every screen was checked one final time. Every system was verified again. The alien observers finally fell silent, understanding that they were watching something remarkable. Not fearless warriors rushing into battle, but prepared professionals ready to face a crisis on their own terms. All stations report ready, Miller called out. Around him, his crew responded with quiet confidence, each one knowing that whatever happened next, they had done everything possible to prepare for it. It was time. Mission start, Captain Miller announced, his voice calm but firm. Anna, take us in on approach Vector 1. The Prudence moved forward slowly, its triple-layered shields glowing as they encountered the first waves of radiation from the anomaly. Inside the ship, every crew member was focused entirely on their tasks. Even the alien observers had stopped making comments, watching intently as the human ship did what their advanced vessels couldn't: survive the approach. First checkpoint reached, Anna reported, holding position for shield analysis. Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her safety console. Shield levels holding. Primary at 92%, secondary at 95%, backup at 98%. She paused, checking a second screen. Exactly as predicted in Simulation 47. The aliens watched in amazement as the supposedly primitive human shields held steady against forces that had torn through their advanced protection systems. Beginning probe preparation sequence, Tom announced. His station was surrounded by screens showing different readouts, each one being monitored simultaneously. All probes responding. Power relays green across all 3 systems. The anomaly loomed larger on the main screen, its purple-black mass swirling menacingly. The Prudence continued its careful approach, following the exact path they had practiced dozens of times in simulations. Second checkpoint, Anna called out. Ready for lateral adjustment. Miller nodded. Execute adjustment. Tom, begin probe deployment sequence. The first probe launched smoothly from the ship, its trajectory perfect after countless practice runs. As it moved into position, its old-style power systems began to interact with the ancient containment field. First probe in position, Tom reported. Power sync at 15% and climbing. Moving to second probe deployment. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed across several consoles. Radiation spike. Lisa called out. Pattern doesn't match any of our simulations. This was the moment that would have caused panic in most crews, but the humans had prepared for unexpected situations. Without needing orders, the crew smoothly shifted to their contingency protocols. Switching to backup pattern Alpha, Anna announced, already adjusting their position. Rerouting power to compensate, engineering reported. Adjusting probe deployment timing, Tom added, his fingers flying across his controls. The alien observers watched in astonishment as the human crew handled the crisis with practiced ease. There was no shouting, no panic, just smooth coordination and quick adjustments. Second probe deployed, Tom reported. Power sync now at 27% combined. The anomaly's swirling patterns began to change. The ancient containment system was responding to the new power sources. Third checkpoint, Anna called out. Ready for final approach. Miller studied the readings on his display. Execute final approach. Tom, prepare final probe deployment. The Prudence moved into its final position, all three shield layers straining against the intense forces surrounding them. The last probe launched, its trajectory curving perfectly through the chaos around them. Final probe in position, Tom announced. Beginning power synchronization. The ship's lights dimmed as they diverted power to support the probe network. Around them, the ancient containment field was coming back to life, its energy patterns stabilizing for the first time in thousands of years. Power sync at 58%, 72%, 89%. Tom called out the readings as they climbed. Lisa's voice cut through the tension. Shield stress increasing. Primary down to 67%, secondary at 71%, backup holding at 85%. Hold position, Miller ordered. Just a little longer. The alien observers held their breath as the human ship and its crew fought to maintain their position. Everything depended on these next few moments. Power sync at 95%, 97%, 99%. Tom's voice was steady despite the pressure. Synchronization complete. Field stabilization beginning. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The swirling chaos of the anomaly began to shrink, contained once again by the rebuilt power grid. The ancient containment system, revitalized by human ingenuity and primitive technology, was working perfectly. Field stability at 100%, Tom reported, finally allowing himself a small smile. All power relays functioning normally. Shields returning to normal levels, Lisa added. All safety systems holding. Miller looked around at his crew, then at the stunned alien observers. Mission accomplished, he said quietly. Anna, take us to safe distance. Let's watch our handiwork. As the Prudence backed away, they could see the full effect of their work. The once threatening anomaly was now fully contained, held in check by a perfect blend of ancient technology and human determination. Commander Rex stepped forward, his voice filled with newfound respect. Your people's reputation for cowardice was our mistake. We confused careful preparation with fear and patience with weakness. We were wrong. 3 days after the successful containment of the anomaly, the Prudence's crew stood before the Galactic Council. The massive chamber was packed with representatives from hundreds of species, all eager to hear from the humans who had solved what seemed like an impossible crisis. Captain Miller stood at the podium, his crew lined up behind him. The same old-style tablets and backup devices that had once drawn mockery were now attracting curious glances from the assembled aliens. The containment field is fully stable, Miller reported, his voice carrying through the chamber. All power relays are functioning at optimal levels. The threat has been neutralized. Head Counselor Smith leaned forward. Captain Miller, your crew has done what our most advanced civilizations could not. Would you explain your methodology to the Council? Miller nodded, pulling up a simple holographic display. Our success wasn't based on having better technology or being braver than others. It was based on 3 simple human principles that we've learned through centuries of space exploration. He held up one finger. First, respect the danger. Fear isn't your enemy. It's a tool that keeps you alive. Behind him, Lisa stepped forward with her safety logs. Every failed attempt by advanced species taught us something. We didn't ignore those failures. We studied them, learned from them, and planned for them. Miller held up a second finger. Second, prepare for everything. What others saw as excessive caution was actually thorough preparation. Tom moved to the podium with one of their probes. Our primitive backup systems and triple-checking protocols weren't signs of weakness. They were the result of hard lessons learned through past mistakes. Miller raised a third finger. And finally, respect the past. Sometimes the old ways work best. Anna displayed the final mission data. The ancient containment system didn't need to be replaced with advanced technology. It needed to be understood and supported with compatible systems. The council chamber was silent as they absorbed these lessons. Commander Rex stood up from his seat. I witnessed their mission firsthand. What I once thought was cowardice was actually the most impressive display of professional courage I've ever seen. The Bright One's representative glowed in agreement. We had forgotten that true advancement doesn't always mean discarding the old ways. The humans reminded us of this valuable lesson. Head Counselor Smith raised his hand for attention. In light of these events, the Council proposes 2 new initiatives. First, all spacefaring civilizations will adopt human safety protocols and multiple backup systems. A murmur of agreement swept through the chamber. The same procedures that had been mocked as cowardly were now being recognized as essential. Second, Smith continued, we will establish a new Galactic Safety and Preparation Council, with humans as the leading advisors. The chamber erupted in approving sounds. Miller looked back at his crew, seeing pride in their eyes. Not pride from being praised, but pride in knowing they had done their job right, the way humans always tried to do it, carefully, thoroughly, and safely. There's an old saying on Earth, Miller addressed the council, better to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it. What you all saw as excessive preparation is just our way of respecting the dangers of space exploration. Tom stepped forward again. And we'll be happy to help implement these new protocols. We've already prepared 3 different training programs, each with full documentation and backup procedures. This brought appreciative laughter from the chamber. As the council session concluded, Miller and his crew prepared to return to the Prudence. They had new missions waiting, new challenges to face, and they would face them the same way they always did, with careful planning, thorough preparation, and healthy respect for the dangers involved. The alien observers who had witnessed their mission now looked at the human crew with new understanding. They finally saw that courage wasn't about rushing in without fear. True courage was about facing your fears with preparation and determination. Captain, Commander Rex called out as they were leaving. What's next for the Prudence and her crew? Miller smiled slightly. We've got a survey mission to the Carina Nebula. Nothing exciting, just standard exploration, but we'll prepare for it just as thoroughly as we did for this crisis. Of course you will, Rex replied with newfound respect. That's what makes you humans not cowards, but the bravest species I know. The crew of the Prudence walked back to their ship, ready for their next mission. They knew that somewhere out there, another challenge waited, and when it came, they would face it the human way, with caution, preparation, and the quiet courage that comes from knowing you're ready for whatever space throws at you.